Hello and welcome to Karate Time. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Karate Time. And something that comes up as a fairly common question, I think, for a lot of instructors is when students say that they've been training with you for a while and they say, oh, they've maybe got a taste for martial arts now, and they say, I want to go and try judo, jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga, they want to go try a different style of karate perhaps, and it's sometimes quite a difficult topic for instructors, because you don't want to put people off and say, no, you can't do that, you stay with me, you stick with this and that's it, because all you're going to do is alienate the student and they're going to sort of get their back up and probably just leave anyway. But there is a difficulty with an instructor there. If they just say, oh yeah, go on, you're trying to, the instructor's trying to work out, where are the loyalties, what sort of commitment can they still expect, and so on. It's one of those, do you cast your net wide, or do you focus on a small, a small area? So cross training is what I wanted to bring up today. Now, I watched a video on YouTube the other day. I can't remember the name of the channel. I'll pop a link, down here somewhere for the video, and it was just interesting. It was this guy. He was doing his own list of ranking martial arts in terms of effectiveness. Sort of giving them a grade level, and it was just very interesting. Actually, he's a karate practitioner, and he put karate, I think, at a B rating. I think he put, which was quite an interesting one. Now, what was good about it is he made the right approach. He said that he's judging it based on what he considers the average the average ability level of those martial arts, because of course in every martial art you have exceptional people, you also have some absolute crap as well, so you try to look at the average standard, and I think he's probably about right. The average standard of karate is not great. I will say, it does seem to be, the countries you go to seem to have a greater or lesser proportion of top level compared to the bottom level, but the average is definitely the important thing to look at. And so I guess the three questions you probably got really then are: is it a good idea to cross train? If so, when? And then how to cross train? And okay, let me just get straight onto the first one. Is it a good idea to cross train? Yes, I think it is. I think it's a good idea to try different martial arts, experience different things. And there's a background for this, which is that every martial art that's out there, and I don't just mean the Japanese martial arts, when we're talking Western martial arts as well, we've got things like boxing, we've got capoeira, we've got, you've got fencing if you want to, you've got HEMA, these are all martial arts and disciplines, and there's a lot that can be learned from them, and perhaps except Taekwondo. No, don't want to say that. Actually, I'm going to bring that up again in a minute, but yes, I think cross-training is a good idea, because every martial art discipline has a particular focus that's developed over time. We do have to make a distinction about the reason people do the martial art as well when we give any opinions on this. So if people are doing the martial art purely for the point of view of a hobby or recreation, then that's their reason for being there. If they're doing it for competition and they want to win and achieve something, from a sort of what I'm looking for, a prestige level, then that's an entirely different reason for doing it. And if someone's looking at it for effective self-defense, if I have to use it, then that also changes things. So out of those three, if you're going to do cross training, I'd say cross training is most important for the people who want effective use of martial arts in real life if they ever had to defend themselves. I would say the second then cross training is important for the people who are just doing it recreational. I think they would, if it's purely recreation, then they might just enjoy the environment. And I think for those looking to compete, it's least important. It's not to say they can't learn something, but of course, if they're looking for competition, then there's going to be a very narrow requirement on a competition. There's going to be particular pathways you have to follow, particular requirements, and if you go too far outside those bounds, you actually might cause yourself problems. So I would say it's less important for those looking to cross train. And out of those three stages, bear in mind you may go through those three stages over your course of your martial arts, so there's no reason you're not going to be at some stage in all three of those. But the reason I say cross training is important is because every martial art typically does have I will say a narrow skill set, but maybe a focused skill set is perhaps better. So, for example, the average karate, and this is again, remember average. The average karate experience is based on strikes, typically long range strikes and kicks. We've got our kata. We do up close work, so we do use the elbows and things like, and the knees as well. But it's essentially a standing striking martial art. You will find very, very few karate, classes that will actually spend much time working detail, and that's the important thing, detail on throws, sweeps, groundwork, locks, strangles, all that sort of stuff. But that is actually a massive part of karate. I mean, you just have to go into the history of karate and you will actually see that exists. It's all in the kata as well. The kata shows you lots of this stuff, but it's typically become quite forgotten because the skill sets become slightly more sportified over the years, and it has meant that certain things have kind of dropped by the wayside for the average practitioner. So that's the case for karate, and in taekwondo, very kick focused, very heavy focus on kicks, and that's about it. I'm not saying they don't do other things, but again, typically it's kicking art. There are hand strikes in there, but everything's geared towards leg work for most people. Judo, throws and grappling. You've got boxing, of course, standing striking, and jiu-jitsu does have typically a bit of all. It starts, a good jiu-jitsu group will have standing, striking, and then they'll have grappling, and then they'll have groundwork as well. But the reason I mention this is that if you want to do cross training, you have to determine why you want to do it. Now, if you're looking at improving a skill set for effective martial arts use, then you need to identify where are the gaps. So, for example, me in karate, I teach a lot in detail with groundwork and sweeps and throws, as well as, because I think that's important. I mean, I still teach breakfalls in karate, which a lot of places don't do anymore. But that's just because of my background and interest in what I'm doing. But most wouldn't. So if you were looking to add something to karate, I would always recommend going to something like judo, not jiu-jitsu. It's not to say they don't work well together, but because jiu-jitsu also has a focus on strikes as well, you might find there's a bit of, it might cloud things a little bit for people. So by picking something that focuses on a skill set that you feel you're missing, you're adding and enhancing and not muddling. My instructor, I think it was another guy, Sensei Yokota said he refers to, it's not mixed martial arts, it's mixed up martial arts, because people do it and muddy it too much without really understanding. So then likewise, if you're doing judo, karate's a good one to go to, or boxing, because they are missing a lot of the striking element. And that is essentially the importance there for me. If you're going to cross train, pick the niche that's missing, or the skill set that's missing from your own, and use it to enhance. But then once you've done that, look back at your own art and see if those things actually exist there in the first place. But you may find tuition by going at another class for that. And it doesn't have to be a permanent thing either. It could be a short term just to build up that level. So that's, do I think cross training is a good idea? Yes, I do. Right, second point. What was my second point? When should you cross train? Okay, now this one's a bit trickier. I can only give you my opinion on this. I don't think you should do cross training um, until you are quite well established in your own uh, first chosen discipline, because what might end up happening is I can only use the example of karate here. I mean, I have trained in other martial arts as well, but not to the same degree. And this is actually kind of the point. I got to my third kyu in judo while doing karate. I did other martial arts prior to karate, but never to a high level. But I had enough to realize that maybe they weren't for me. The more I've done karate, the more I realize those skill sets that I felt were missing in karate were actually there all along. They just required, because they weren't taught to me. Because they're not commonly taught. I went into analyzing and understanding and looking through the kata and working things out a lot myself, and that in itself is part of your journey. You can't always just be taught something. It's quite good to learn things yourself, go away and actually work it out yourself. So I discovered a lot of those things that I felt were missing in karate were actually there all along. So if you cross train too early, and this is a common one, is people say, I want to go and do mixed martial arts because it's all of them. But that's not the case. You may find that you've just missed something in your martial art that you never took time to look at. So if you go away too early to start training in like 10 different styles, you never appreciate any of them to their full extent. You're becoming one of those empty vessels there's nothing there. It's just they're pouring things in at you and it's just not working. It's just overflowing. You're never giving yourself time. So yes, when I think wait until you're quite well established, so that you can recognize the difference when you go from one martial art to another. So for example, if I went from judo to karate, I shouldn't take my judo with me too much to karate. I should use it to enhance my karate, but you don't want to be accidentally doing techniques from one to another when you're moving between different schools. That's just my thought. As soon as you can get to that point where you can differentiate, then that's probably a good point to try it. But never neglect your foundation. And then how you go about it, I suppose that kind of is what I've just mentioned, really, is that when you want to go about it, don't throw yourself fully into it to the neglect of your own. It should become a case of everything you do in the other martial arts should then be referenced back to the reason you went there in the first place. So I go, okay, I don't know how to do grappling very well, therefore I go to judo as well as karate. And every time I would be in that judo class, I should be going, okay, this fills in this gap that I was looking for in my karate. Then when I go back to my karate training, I start looking at my kata and going, hang on, this looks like that. I mean, there's a great one, simple one in Shotokan kata. Pretty much every jump in a kata is not jumping over something, it's a symbolic representation of a throw. So then I started to look at them and go, well, what throws are they? And I recognize things like the jump in Empi, it's Katakaruma. There's a turn in Hyan Sandan right near the end before you come across. So the Empi position, it's not an Empi, it's a hip throw. It's Ogoshi essentially. You've got Hyangodan. You come across here and you've got the jump and Jujuki. Well, that's actually Ippon Seoinage. And you start to notice these things, and I think that's for me the best way of doing it is to always be referring back to the original style that you know and the reason you went there, and that will enhance them. You should be adding, not muddying and clouding your knowledge. And yeah, that's kind of really all I wanted to say. I don't think there's any harm in cross training. I would always say make sure you speak to your instructor before you start cross training, because just out of courtesy, it can be one of those things. If an instructor finds out that you're now training in two other martial arts or something, and they find out the wrong way, it can feel like a bit of a kick in the teeth to say, well, is what I'm doing not good enough? I always say start with your instructor. If they're a good instructor and you respect them, then they will probably support you, but they would still lay out that, you know, okay, it's fine if you're going to go to another one, but please make sure you don't neglect your commitment to that club, because it's a community as well, you know, and it's often important to that instructor that, you know, their students, that he or she knows that the student values what's going on. And if you feel there's gaps, then feel free to ask the instructor. I don't mind admitting to a student if I don't have a particular expertise in a certain area of karate, because it just means, okay, you've just highlighted something I need to go and learn if I want to then teach it. You know, still learning for me as well. I don't have to be the font of all knowledge, you know. And there we go. And other than that, I will say enjoy your Sunday, and train, cross train when you're ready. You know. Oh, I forgot to say before we go. Those of you doing things like competition, I wasn't forgetting you, and I did say about Taekwondo. If you want to learn how to kick really effectively, then try some Taekwondo classes, because, you know, they spend so long doing it that, to be fair, they're very good. I don't like a lot of the stuff they do, but it actually suits like the competition environment quite well. You know, so if you're going to compete, make sure whatever you're going to improve on is less about filling gaps. It's more about focusing on things that you can legally do in your competitions. You know, filling those gaps will come later. I only mention that because I remember in a competition I got a warning because I pulled off one of the best throws I'd ever had. The guy came in and grappled me, and in karate now it's like half the time they just, you know, push and shove and then they get separated, whereas that happened to me, and I pulled off Haragoshi, sent a massive throw straight in Gakuzuki. It was like the best technique I'd done in donkey's years, and I got a warning because you're not allowed to throw over the hip in karate, apparently, because it's not safe. If everyone still learnt their break falls, it would be safe. So I don't care if I lost. I pulled off one of the best things I've done in a long time. So there we go. So there we are. So yeah, competition people, you still got stuff to cross train in, but it's less about filling gaps. It's more about enhancing while you're on that competition circuit. All right, that's my view anyway. And there we go. Have a good day. Take care, everyone. Cheerio.